Hi guys. So it's Family Friendly Friday and I've been dreading this prompt. Primarily because the prompt itself is, sorry, it's below, that's why I keep looking below, is to confess your biggest parenting fail. So, I mean, that's always difficult to admit to anybody, but there was this one time, and I think it's more of like a story time thing of how taking your eyes off of them for 2 seconds, not even, can just change everything. I will say before I start the story that everything was fine. Okay. It was shortly after my then husband and I had split, but we weren't divorced yet. We were separated. I was grocery shopping with the kids. No big deal. Did it as per usual. And we were at a store that they knew, all this kind of stuff. And we were in the checkout line. And I, put stuff from my cart onto the conveyor belt, right? Okay. That's all I did. Okay. Put it down. And then I went back. My son was gone out of the cart. Like, the panic that goes through you, right? Especially my son, who was completely nonverbal at the time. I just went into panic mode, and the cashier was fantastic. The store was fantastic. I'm sure it was like within a few seconds, but it felt like hours to me. The manager was with me. What was he wearing? And I was able to, describe what he was wearing and his name, and he has autism. He's nonverbal and he's non-responsive. And they're like, oh, okay. And then you hear the thing over the PA that, that there's a child that has gone away from his parent. The store is locked down, which was awesome. So no child was allowed to leave the store without a grown-up of some kind acknowledging that was their child. So that was cool. I had no idea that part was happening until afterwards. The cashier kept my daughter happy, engaged, helping her. She was actually like doing checkouts with all the other, with the people in the line behind us. I was flipping out, okay? Because not only is he gone, okay, but we are also in a grocery store that has two of the sides of the grocery store are on big major streets. One of them is actually Main Street, that has 4 lanes going one way on one street and another way on another street, and then 4 two-way lanes on the 3rd street around it, and then in behind he could actually go down and exit to a highway, to a major highway. I'm flipping out. I called my newly separated husband, said, this is the deal, you need to get here. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I'll see if I can get there. I'll see if I can get in a I'm like, I don't care. Do what you need to. But honestly, I was kind of ticked off because it didn't sound like he understood the urgency here. And the great thing is by the time he made it there, we had found my son. But I'm like out in the parking lot surveilling everything there because, I can't have him going out into these other streets. Not only is he going to get hit by a car in the parking lot, but he can get hit. So I'm out like running around the parking lot trying to find him. People were inside trying to find him. Then they found him, or at least a child that matched the description, who was non-responsive and not paying any attention to anybody. Then they had to find me. They knew that I was out in the parking lot though, but they had to find me to bring me in to confirm that this was him. So anyway, they found me. Benefits of being taller, they kind of just like looked around, saw the tall redhead and screamed my name. But they had to like come most of the way because it was such a large parking lot. and came back in, and yes, it was him, which was fantastic. Guess where the little guy was? He was just happily eating candy out of the bulk bins. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. And then, by the time we get him, they, gave him an extra baggie of the bulk bin that he was eating out of. And they were very kind and gave it to him for free, which they really didn't need to do. And we were checking out, and that's when my, newly ex-husband walked in, and it was all like, that's when I just lost it. I started bawling my eyes out, and he was hugging me and everything. And it was crazy how fat, like apparently it was less than 7 or 8 minutes from the moment that, I last saw him to when we were checking out. Like, so maybe he was gone for 4 or 5 minutes. But it felt to me like it was hours, absolute hours. Every once in a while we were in court for a few years afterwards, my ex-husband would bring it up as, see, you're a horrible parent. But I mean, this kind of a thing can happen in a split second. And the fact that it did happen, I felt horrible about it. I felt like I was a horrible parent. But it is something that, it can happen in just a split second. And that's when I realized how even more dangerous autism is, and specifically how much more dangerous nonverbal autism is, because even when they found him, they didn't know it was him, because they couldn't get him to respond and confirm that it was him. So the good thing is, I guess, besides the fact that we found him and he was fine and just, sugared up, was about a year or so later, there was a new registry in town with the police services for missing person department, where specifically it's an autism registry, but they will take anybody who is non-communicative verbally or has a special need that, that basically has like a developmental delay. So that then if they do go missing, there is a profile with the police, so that then they have all that information. They have his likes and dislikes and, his favorite characters, and the fact that at the time when I registered him anyway, that he was terrified of dogs. So don't send a police dog after him, because it's going to make things worse. So stuff like that. So I think without this horrible experience, and where I just felt like the worst parent in the world that this even happened, I was then able to, although it was a difficult process to register him with the local police department, there's a sense of calmness in me now, which sounds weird, I know, but it's there, knowing that if something were to happen, they have all of his information, so that then if it got to the situation where he did have to get, if a, God forbid, which no please, an Amber Alert had to be called for him, then they would have all the information immediately, and I wouldn't have to think about it in my emotional state, right? So it was very, very difficult process to do, is to complete this form, and it was a very extensive form, on the off chance that he would go missing. But I think if I hadn't had those 5 minutes or so of him being out of my sight, I wouldn't have gone through that process. But now it's a good thing, because the first responders have that information about him. So I don't really know if that's my biggest parenting fail. It's probably the situation where I felt like the worst parent in the world. But there were also some good things that came from it, and some good lessons that happened. So, yeah. I don't know, but that's definitely the thing that popped into my head when I read what this week's prompt is. So there is a playlist of all the ladies that are doing this prompt, so I will list those in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe while you're down there, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.